Hey everyone, this is Anthony at DIYautotech. We're going to be showing you how to drive a car with a standard manual transmission today. Alright, so we're going to show you how to drive a stick today. Basic thing to remember is that this is our shifter for shifting, okay? We have all of our speeds selected here. We've got first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and reverse, okay? And it shows where they are on the stick here. It gives you a little map on top. First step whenever you're driving a stick shift is to always depress your foot all the way on the clutch before starting the car, okay? So that you can start the car. Once we've started the car and made sure that our car is in neutral, as you can see by the shifter being able to wiggle around here, I can let my foot off the clutch because it won't stall, considering we're in neutral. To take off in a stick shift, we're going to want to depress the clutch all the way, because whenever you're moving this selector, you need to have your foot depressed on the clutch. We're going to put it into first gear since that's our first gear, okay? We're going to rev our engine a little bit, and while revving our engine, we're going to let our foot off the clutch slowly and find the slipping point. You're not going to just let go of the clutch, otherwise the car's going to stall. So what you do is you let out slowly and you find that soft point where the car starts moving a little bit, where the clutch starts grabbing on the flywheel. Basically what we're doing is we're connecting the engine and the transmission in one fluid motion through a clutch disc, a flywheel, and a pressure plate. Not going to get into the theory of it, but that's how it works. Okay? So we make sure our car's in first gear, okay? We rev our engine a little bit, and we let out of the clutch slowly. Letting out, keep letting out. My foot is now all the way off the clutch, and as you can see, the engine RPM is going to steadily go up. So what we need to do here is we need to plan our next shift. In some cars, you can rev up to 10,000 RPM. Some other cars, only 5,000. It depends which car. In this car, I've got a 6,500 RPM rev limiter. That's the fastest my engine can go with topping out. I don't want to rev to that every time I drive because that'll, definitely increase the amount of wear on my motor. So what we need to do is we need to find a good shift point for your car. And every car is different, but generally you're going to find a good shift point between 2,500 RPM and about 4,000 RPM. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take off again, pushing the gas a little bit, letting out of the clutch pedal slowly. I've let out all the way now. And when I go to shift, I'm going to let off the gas and at the same time push the clutch in all the way and pick my next gear. I'm going to go to second gear and then do the same thing all over. Let the clutch out while hitting the gas. It's all about being fluid in your motions. Okay, the smoother the better. When you first start off, you're gonna stall the car a lot because you need to find that good shift point. But it just takes time and a little practice. So as you can see here, I'm in first gear. My engine RPM is increasing, and I'm gonna shift into second gear. Let out of the clutch while hitting the gas. Doesn't need to be jerky. You don't need to go very quick. This shifter does not take a lot of force to move, so you don't need to ratchet it all around. Whenever you're shifting, you have to always make sure you hit the clutch pedal. Push it all the way to the floor. Whenever you're moving this shifter around, the clutch pedal needs to be depressed. As you can see, I've come to a stop, so I'm going to go back into first gear. Okay, we're going to take off here. I'm going to go into second gear, so let off the gas, push in the clutch, shift, let out of the clutch while hitting the gas. I'm going to go into third gear now, so we're going to do the same thing again, push in the clutch, shift into third gear, let out of the clutch while hitting the gas. We can go into fourth gear as well, or any gear we want for that matter, as long as it's not reverse. Just make sure you're not shifting too low. You don't want to shift it too low of an RPM because the lower RPM you shift at, the lower torque your car is going to make and you're not going to be able to move as fast. And this is why people like to drive stick shifts, is because they have the power to control when their car shifts. For instance, if I wanted to floor my car and go to red line, I could. Or if I needed to downshift very quickly, I could. That's another technique we can go over as well, is the downshifting. Let's say I'm in third gear, driving down the road and I want to pass a big rig. And in automatic, you have to put your foot to the floor, or that around there, and it takes a couple seconds for the car to downshift. In my car, I just go back down to second gear right when I want to, or first gear right when I want to, or any gear. It's all in my power, it's all in my control. That's the basic theory behind driving a stick. Now let's say you're coming to a stop. I'm in second gear right now, I need to come to a stop. Push the clutch in, hit the brake, and I come to a stop, keeping my foot on the clutch because my car is still in gear. If your car is in neutral, in this center position here, you can let out of the clutch and it's okay, because your car's in neutral, it's not going to stall. But anytime your car's in gear, you have to keep that clutch pedal depressed. Okay? Like I said, coming off from a stop, you're going to hit the gas, release the clutch pedal slowly, find that soft spot where the car starts grabbing, and then just drive. I'm shifting it around 2,500 RPM. In other cars, you can shift lower or higher. Just make sure to never go to red line, or past red line, I'm sorry. It's okay to go to red line. Your car's built to do that. I don't suggest doing it a lot, because it is very strenuous on the motor, because you're pushing your engine at very, very fast speeds, just if you were to run at full speed down the track. So that's the basic shifting techniques here for driving a stick. I can show you a little other reason why people like to drive stick, and that's, you know, advanced takeoffs, downshifting, and basically slamming gears. The reason people like driving sticks is because they can get a good takeoff. I can rev a little higher and take off quick. Oops, the camera just fell. Yeah. And I gotta reposition. But the reason people like sticks is they can shift when they want. So if I want to bring it to red line like this, I can choose when to shift, and the camera just went down again. And that is not because my car's fast. That is definitely not why the camera fell down. Alright, so let me show you what we're actually doing here when we do this, okay? Guess we can turn this thing off. So, when I was saying I was letting out of the clutch pedal slowly, let me see if I can show you this. What I was doing was, I was hitting the gas pedal a little bit, okay? And when you depress the clutch, you push it all the way to the floor. You see that? Pedal goes all the way to the floor. What I'm doing is, when I'm taking off, I'm slowly letting out of this pedal until I feel a soft point. I kind of hold it there for, you know, a half second, and then I let out a little more. So when I take off, I'm going, go to shift, go to shift, and that's the sound your car makes, by the way. I know that's a weird sound. But that's basically all we're doing here in a stick shift. Okay? And while doing all the shifting, I was going from first to second gear, from second to third, from third to fourth, from fourth to fifth, and then reverse is right there. And it shows you right here. You see, there's all the numbers there. Just like a multi-speed bicycle. You start out in the lowest gear and you keep moving up to the top gear. On, like I said, just like a multi-speed bicycle, you're not going to take off at 18th speed because it's way too hard to ride the bike like that. You have to start off in a lower gear. That's exactly what we're doing in a car. So hopefully this helps you out a little bit. I'll just do a driving video again so you can get the feel of how everything works, and hopefully this has taught you how to drive stick. So if you ever need to. Alright, just going to show you another driving video here. Making sure our car's in neutral, because when it's in gear, you can move the stick around, but not nearly as much. So it's in gear here, but out here, it's not in gear. You can see it moves around a lot more. Putting on my seatbelt, letting out of the e-brake, with my foot pushed in on the clutch. I put it into first gear, check all my mirrors to go take off, rev the car a little bit, let out of the clutch slowly. Now that we're coming back to a stop, push the clutch in to disengage the engine from the transmission. I'm already in first gear, so I don't need to downshift. Going into second gear, third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear. And fifth gear is the highest gear I have. So after that, we can just stay in fifth gear. Coming back down to a stop, so I put my car into neutral while the clutch is depressed, and I come to a stop. Now that it's in neutral, I can let out of the clutch and just use the brake. As long as it's in neutral, you can let out of the clutch. I can say that 1,000 times. lights turn green, so I push my clutch back in, put it into first gear, and go to take off. Let's see, I'm taking off here. Do a little red line real quick. Slowing down because we're speeding. As you can see, the higher in RPMs we go, the more power we get. And that's why people like to drive stick shifts, because they can shift when they want. They can stay within that power band, which happens to be at a higher RPM. So, given the scenario, I'm driving in fourth gear right now, and I need to pass the car in front of me. I downshift, and I get on it. Hit the gas a little bit. Shift into fourth gear. Basic stuff. You just gotta, you gotta figure out what works best for you, where you like to shift in your car. That's why stick shifts, you can get a lot better gas mileage, because if you wanted to, you could shift as low as possible. The only problem with this is, as you can see, we're coming to a slower speed. I'm gonna downshift. You don't always have to go into first gear. I only go into first gear because I've done a couple stops. Every time we come to a stop, I'm gonna come to first gear. But let's say we were just coming to a yield sign, or we're slowing down to make a turn. That's where things get a little bit trickier, and you got to figure out which gear you want to be in, because every gear has a speed range. Let's say I'm coming at a turn at around 20 miles an hour. I'm probably going to want to be in second gear or third gear, and it's all different for every car. You just got to figure out how the gear ratios are, because some gear ratios are shorter, some are longer in cars. So for instance, this turn coming up right here, I can stay in second gear because we're doing about 10 miles an hour, 15. I can come around this turn in second gear, no problem. Come around this turn in second gear. Let's say I was in third gear. I don't want to take this turn in third gear, so I'm going to push the clutch in, downshift, let out of the clutch, and hit the turn. You always want to downshift before the turn. Don't shift mid-turn. A lot of people do that for some reason. It's not a good practice. Okay, and then we're coming over here, and we're parking. That was a drive. You just made it home driving a stick shift. Okay, this has been a video by DIYautotech. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'll try and answer them to the best of my knowledge.